They told you Ra was a myth, a sun god from a primitive past, a story, not truth. But what if that's the greatest cover-up in spiritual history? What if Ra wasn't just worshipped, but remembered? Not as a figure, but as the original intelligence. The light before light, the spark before creation, the pulse of consciousness that breathed everything into being. This isn't about ancient Egypt. It's about you. Because somewhere along the way, humanity forgot. It forgot that divinity was never in the sky. It was in the self. And the story of Ra, buried under time and translation, holds the key to remembering. This is not mythology. This is a memory, a coded message left by those who knew what would come. A world disconnected from its source. But you didn't find this by accident. You're here because something in you remembers, and once you see Ra for what he really is, you'll never see yourself the same way again. Long before language was used to divide and define, before temples became businesses and gods became brands, there was only one truth: light. Not the light you see with your eyes, but the first light, the conscious pulse of energy that gave birth to all things. The ancients called it Ra, not because they worshipped a sun in the sky, but because they understood something we've forgotten. Ra was not just the sun. Ra was the source, the generator of life, the mind behind the universe, the architect of vibration. What modern texts reduced to mythology, ancient initiates revered as memory. Ra was not a god in the way we think of gods now. Personified, hierarchical, separate. Ra was the all-encompassing field of divine intelligence that breathed the cosmos into being and continues to speak in the silent language of light. The story of Ra has been distorted because power fears clarity. If you knew you were born from the same source as stars, how could they control you? If you understood that your spirit is made from the same essence as the sun itself, why would you ever doubt your own light? The temples of Kemet, the true name of what we now call Egypt, weren't places of blind worship. They were consciousness laboratories. The priests were not clerics. They were scientists of spirit. They understood how light interacts with the body, how vibration shapes matter, how sound activates dormant codes within the soul. And at the center of it all was Ra. Not as an idol, but as a symbol of what we are at our core, luminous, sovereign, eternal. But over time, Ra was reduced first to a god, then to a story, then to a cartoon, and eventually we forgot. Not just about Ra, but about what Ra represented. The divine order of creation, the language of frequency, the original connection between source and self. And what did we replace it with? Worship of the external, subservience to authority, fear of nature, fear of death, fear of our own power. Ra didn't vanish. We just lost the lens to see. And that's why you're here, not for entertainment, not for trivia, but because something in your soul is stirring, something ancient, something real, because this isn't about Egypt. This is about the truth buried inside you. You don't study Ra like a history book. You remember Ra like a part of yourself you've been trained to forget. Some of what we're about to uncover is too spiritually charged to share here. For deeper teachings, join our free newsletter, Insights Academy, link in the description. For a limited time, you'll also get a digital copy of the Kybalion. The earliest creation texts tell us that Ra emerged from the void. Not created, not summoned, but self-generated. The ancients called this Nun, the primordial waters of infinite potential. Ra was the first conscious act, the word that spoke itself, light bursting into darkness, awareness entering form. And everything that followed, stars, planets, souls, were emanations of that same light, not separate from it, which means you are not separate either. You are not here to seek the divine. You are here to remember it. And remembering begins not with belief, but with resonance. The story of Ra is the story of your origin, your structure, your destiny. Not mythology, but blueprint. The world may keep calling it a myth, but to those with eyes to see and ears to hear, it's a mirror, a map, a message encoded in time. The truth isn't lost. It's just waiting for you to look at the light and finally see yourself in it. We've been taught to look at the sun and see only fire, a star of heat and light floating in a void of cold silence. But the ancients looked at that same sun and saw intelligence. Not because they were primitive, but because they were tuned into something we've lost. The awareness that the sun is not just a celestial object, but a living transmitter of divine energy. They didn't worship it out of ignorance. They honored it because they understood what it was doing. Every moment of every day, radiating life, not just biologically, but spiritually. Every plant that grows, every breath you take, every thought that fires in your brain is supported by that single source. The sun is not just sustaining your body, it's communicating with your soul. In ancient Kemet, Ra wasn't seen as distant. He was the visible face of the invisible force, a gateway through which source consciousness entered the physical realm. They believed the sun held codes, light codes infused with the patterns of divine order. These weren't just poetic ideas. The priests and initiates knew that the sun's rays carried vibrational information, frequencies that interact with human DNA, awaken dormant memory, and ignite spiritual clarity. The same way your body absorbs vitamin D, your soul absorbs light data. This was the original spiritual science long before it was ridiculed, buried, and rebranded as woo-woo or dismissed as sun worship. And now, quantum biology is beginning to whisper what the ancients shouted: light affects consciousness. Photons influence cell behavior. Frequency alters reality. Look deeper and you'll see the symbols were never literal. Ra sailing across the sky wasn't a bedtime story. It was code. His solar bark represented the path of consciousness, the movement of light across realms. Sunrise to sunset was more than time. It was a cycle of energy from emergence to integration, and this wasn't metaphorical. It was a map of your soul's path. Every morning, Ra rises just as awareness rises in you. Every night he journeys through the underworld, just as you descend into shadow, chaos, forgetting. But the next day he returns. He always returns. That was the promise. Light cannot die. It may dim. It may disappear behind illusion, but it cannot be destroyed. Just like you. Think about it. You live your whole life under the sun. You eat what it feeds, sleep when it leaves, rise when it returns. But how often do you consider the possibility that the sun is not just light, but language? That it's speaking to you every single day in waves your eyes cannot see and your ears cannot hear, but your soul does. Always has. The ancient builders aligned temples with solar events, not for beauty, but for precision. They built gateways not to worship the sun, but to work with it. They knew when the veil was thin. They knew when the light carried more. Equinoxes, solstices, these were not holidays. They were transmissions. So when you hear people mock sun worship, remember this. It's not about the object in the sky, it's about the intelligence behind it. Ra was never just a sun god. He was the awareness through the sun, the architect of life's rhythm, the one who breathes divine order into chaos. And deep down, you already feel this. It's why light soothes you, why dawn feels like rebirth, why sitting in the sun can pull you out of thoughts and drop you into presence. That's not psychological, that's a spiritual memory. You were born of light, shaped by it, sustained by it, and when the noise of the world falls away, you remember you are it. You are a walking fragment of Ra, encoded with the same light that created the stars. So next time you stand under the sun, don't just look, listen. The light is not shining on you, it's speaking to you, and if you're ready, it will start to speak through you. The sun was never just a ball of fire in the sky. It was a living library. The ancient priests of Kemet didn't simply pray beneath it. They studied it, aligned with it, listened to it, because they knew what the rest of the world would one day forget. That light isn't passive. It's encoded. Every ray of sunlight carries frequencies, information, and memory. Not metaphorically, literally. Photons are messengers, and Ra's light wasn't just nourishment, it was instruction. Hidden within it were blueprints of consciousness, sacred geometry, and energetic patterns that mirrored the divine design of the universe. And the temples weren't just places of ritual, they were decoding chambers, portals of remembrance, structures built with impossible precision to capture and concentrate specific light at specific times. Because the initiates knew that within that light was knowledge not written in words, but felt in the soul. This is what we've lost. While modern minds mock ancient spiritual science as primitive, they ignore the evidence carved in stone. The way the light on the solstice would strike a single glyph at the heart of a hidden corridor. The way certain chambers would resonate only under exact solar conditions. These were not accidents. These were instructions. The priests were trained not just to interpret these alignments, but to use them to meditate at the right hour, chant the right frequencies, and absorb the codes transmitted through Ra's light. These teachings were never meant for the masses. They were passed down through generations of initiates, men and women who dedicated their lives to guarding the mysteries because they understood something that still terrifies the modern world. Light can awaken the soul. And once that happens, there's no going back. You've been told knowledge comes from books, degrees, institutions. But the deepest knowledge doesn't live in ink. It lives in vibration, in resonance, in your cells. And the temples of Ra weren't places of worship, they were activators. They trained the initiate to receive light not just with the body but with the spirit, to unlock dormant memory, to see through illusion, to remember what we once were, beings of pure frequency capable of aligning with cosmic intelligence. They weren't trying to become gods. They were stripping away the lies to remember they already were. And that's what Ra represented. Not a being, but a state, a frequency of divine mind, flowing through all things hidden in plain sight. They encoded it in art, symbols, stories, because they knew a time would come when the temples would fall, when the scrolls would burn, when the truth would be buried beneath centuries of distortion. So they left breadcrumbs in the architecture of light. The story of Ra's solar bark, the 12 gates of night, the Eye of Ra. These weren't bedtime myths. They were encrypted messages. They were instructions for the soul's return. And the true priest didn't teach. They activated. Because the truth doesn't need to be taught. It needs to be remembered. You can feel it already, can't you? That hum under the surface when you hear the name Ra, that pull towards something you can't quite explain. That isn't curiosity, that's recognition. The same codes that once echoed through the temples are still inside you, waiting. And the moment you stop seeing Ra as a myth and start seeing Ra as memory, you begin to access them. Modern systems want you to believe awakening is intellectual, that it's about studying, mastering, performing. But awakening has always been energetic. The mystery schools understood that light affects matter, that sound affects DNA, that presence bends reality. They knew the human being wasn't just flesh, it was a vessel. And Ra was the current moving through it. That's why the knowledge was hidden. Not to exclude you, but to protect it from those who would weaponize it. Because true power isn't found in domination, it's found in alignment. And Ra's light doesn't control, it reveals, it clears, it heals, and it calls not to your mind, but to your soul. So the question is, will you remember, or will you keep calling light a story, while wondering why the world feels so dark? Every night Ra was said to die, to sink beneath the horizon and journey into the underworld. Duat, a realm of shadows, chaos, and forgotten truth. But this wasn't just a celestial tale. This was the map of the soul. The ancient priests understood something we've only just begun to grasp again. That darkness isn't the opposite of light. It's the proving ground for it. Ra's descent into Duat wasn't defeat. It was an initiation. Every night he entered the realm of chaos to confront the serpent Apep, the embodiment of disorder, fear, fragmentation. And every night he rose again, not untouched, but transformed, strengthened, reforged in the darkness. This wasn't a story about a son. This was a story about you. Because you too descend. Every time you question who you are, every time you lose your way. Every time the world seems to turn cold, meaningless, and silent, you are not broken. You are in Duat, the place where all illusions dissolve and all truth is tested. The serpent you face may not have scales or fangs, but it lives in the same place. The mind. The voice that tells you you're not enough. The fear that says, stay quiet, stay small, stay safe. The shadow that creeps in when the light fades. The ancients didn't fear Apep because they knew that without shadow, light's just theory. The confrontation with darkness is what makes light real. And here's the part they never taught you. The journey through the underworld wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Ra didn't descend because he failed. He descended because that's the path of ascension. It's in the struggle, in the descent, in the dissolution of everything false that the real self is revealed. And every soul walking this earth, every single one, will enter Duat in some form. A relationship ends. A belief collapses. A loss shatters you. A truth unsettles your illusion. And suddenly you're there, floating in the unknown, fighting shadows, questioning everything. That's not a weakness. That's the sacred passage. The temples taught the Duat was divided into 12 gates, each one representing a different challenge, a different layer of transformation. The journey wasn't meant to be easy. It was meant to strip away the ego, the stories, the programming, everything that wasn't aligned with divine order. And the soul that emerged on the other side wasn't the same. It was reborn, enlightened, not through escape, but through endurance, through presence in the dark, through trust that the light would return, not from outside, but from within. So, what does this mean for you? It means your darkness is not a detour. It means your struggles are not shameful. They are sacred. The fact that you're here listening to this means you're already in the bark with Ra. You're already navigating your own Duat. And if you keep going, if you don't run from it, you'll rise. Maybe not the same, maybe not untouched, but whole, aligned, awake. This is the truth hidden beneath centuries of watered-down spirituality. The light you seek will never come if you deny the dark. You must face your serpent. You must die to who you were so you can become who you truly are. That's what Ra teaches us, not through sermons, but through his cycle. Every day he rises, every night he descends, and every morning he is reborn. Not as a new sun, but as the same light remembered. You are not here to avoid the dark. You are here to walk through it, to confront your illusions, to slay your serpent, and to rise, not because you were never broken, but because you remembered you were never the breakable thing to begin with. The Eye of Ra is one of the most misunderstood symbols in spiritual history. Modern minds label it a myth, a superstition, or worse, a relic of primitive fear. They say it's about wrath, punishment, surveillance. But they're wrong. The eye was never about watching you. It was about you learning to see. Not with your eyes, but with your inner vision, your intuition, your divine perception. Because the real war was never between gods. It was between truth and illusion. And the eye was the tool to pierce the veil. In the ancient texts, the Eye of Ra wasn't just a symbol. It was alive, a force, a conscious extension of Ra himself, sent out to restore balance, to correct disorder, to illuminate the hidden. It represented awareness, not fear-based attention, but awakened seeing. The kind that burns through deception, the kind that knows what's real before proof arrives. The kind of vision you've been taught to ignore. From the moment you could think, they trained you to trust only what could be measured, seen, confirmed. They told you to silence your gut, dismiss your dreams, question your feelings, and call your intuition nonsense. They handed you a world made of surfaces and told you that was reality. But the ancients knew better. They knew the physical world was only a sliver of what exists, and that real perception begins where the senses end. The Eye of Ra wasn't about looking out. It was about looking in. It was the flame behind the forehead, the insight behind the logic, the clarity behind the noise. You've probably felt it before. That moment where you just knew something without knowing why. Where a person's smile didn't match their energy, where the words made sense, but your body said no. That wasn't paranoia. That was the eye beginning to open. And if you've ever felt shame for trusting that instinct, or worse, abandoning it, you're not alone. The system doesn't want you seeing clearly. It wants you blind behind open eyes, distracted by details, obsessed with evidence, addicted to appearances. Because when you truly see, you become dangerous. You stop reacting and start discerning. You stop following and start sensing. You stop asking for permission and start remembering who you are. In Kemet, the eye was also a representation of the Ujjat, the whole, the healed, the complete. It was the restoration of what had been broken. In the myth, the eye is torn apart, scattered, and then put back together, not randomly, but with sacred precision. The fractions of the eye in Egyptian math added up to 63 64s, a symbol that full perception always contains a mystery, a space for the divine unknown. It wasn't about perfect control. It was about perfect alignment with the unseen. This wasn't mythology. This was training. Because the eye wasn't something only the gods possessed. It was something within you, waiting to be activated. Your pineal gland, your third eye, your inner sight, it's all the same language. The eye is the bridge between worlds, the lens through which higher consciousness filters into form. And once it opens, you can't go back. Not because you're special, but because you've remembered what the world tried to make you forget. That your perception isn't passive, it's creative. The way you see the world shapes the world. The lens you carry changes what appears, and when your eye is clear, so is your path. This is why the ancients protected the eye, why they wrapped it in myth and guarded it with ritual, because they knew what happens when the people remember how to see. They knew that illusion crumbles when even one person dares to look past the mask. And they knew that the eye, once opened, doesn't just illuminate the world, it restores it. So the question is, never do you believe. The question is, will you open it? Will you trust the visions, the dreams, the gut feelings? Will you look beyond appearances and reclaim your right to divine perception? Because the eye isn't watching you. It's waiting for you to remember how to see. We've been taught to view gods as beings, powerful, yes, but still separate, distant, somewhere out there. But in the oldest spiritual systems, the ones uncorrupted by fear and hierarchy, that wasn't the truth. The most awakened initiates didn't see Ra as one god among many. They saw Ra as the one. Not a character in the story, but the field behind the story. The source, the silence before the sound, the mind before thought, the light before the sun itself. Every name, every form, every pantheon, they were fragments, faces, aspects. But Ra was the infinite behind the mask. The presence too vast to be worshipped, too intimate to be obeyed. Not outside you, through you. When the ancient texts speak of Ra, they are often speaking in layers. To the untrained mind, it sounds like a myth, but to the initiated, it's code. And hidden in that code is one of the most powerful spiritual truths humanity has ever touched. All is one. There is no God in the sky and soul on the ground. There is no heaven above and earth below. There is only one substance, one consciousness, one eternal presence moving through everything. And Ra was the word they used to name it without limiting it. Because Ra wasn't just the sun and not just the light. Ra was the life inside the light, the awareness inside the fire, the intelligence that knows itself as tree, as wind, as human, as silence. In many translations, Ra is fused with Atum. Atum Ra, the self-created one, the all, he who creates himself through himself. This isn't mythology, this is metaphysics. Ra wasn't born. He emanated from nothingness, from none. The unformed waters of pure potential. Not created, not caused, just awareness. Being. That's what the ancients meant. Not a man with a hawk head, but a principle, a presence. And that presence is not gone. It hasn't left. It's flowing through everything, including you. Every breath you take is Ra. Every heartbeat, every spark of intuition, every moment you remember something deeper is guiding you. That's not imagination, that's recognition. It's no coincidence that mystics in other traditions speak the same way. The Hindus call it Brahman, the formless one. The Taoists call it the Tao, the way that cannot be named. The mystic Christians speak of the Logos. The Gnostics called it the Monad. Different names, same truth. The one, eternal, indivisible, and yet somehow still personal, still here. And when the ancients of Kemet looked at the sky and whispered, Ra, they weren't praying to a sun god. They were communing with the unnameable. They were aligning their consciousness with the source of all things. They were entering remembrance. You don't need a temple to do that. You don't need a priest, because Ra was never external. You were never meant to bow down. You were meant to rise up, to awaken to the fact that your consciousness is a flame of that same eternal fire. That the thing you've been seeking your whole life, the divine, the truth, the light, it's not hidden, it's not somewhere else. It's within you, whispering, guiding, waiting for you to listen. The reason this truth was buried is simple. Once people realize they are expressions of the One, they stop being easy to manipulate. They stop playing the game. They stop chasing false power and start radiating real power, the kind that can't be sold, stolen, or approved. That's why they turned Ra into a myth. That's why they gave you religion instead of connection, obedience instead of awareness. But the deeper truth never disappeared. It just went quiet, waiting for the right moment to return. Maybe that moment is now. Maybe that's why you're still here, still listening, still pulled towards something you can't explain. Maybe you've spent your whole life searching for God, only to realize that what you've been searching for is the one who has always been searching through you. There's a reason this knowledge isn't in your textbooks. There's a reason Ra has been reduced to a cartoon god with a bird's head. A reason ancient Kemet has been renamed, repackaged, and rewritten until the truth was unrecognizable. You were never meant to remember. Not because the truth was lost, but because it was buried deliberately, systematically erased, not by accident, but by design. Because a world full of people who know they come from divine light, who know they are extensions of the One, is a world that cannot be controlled. So the story of Ra had to be broken, fragmented, turned into myth. Not destroyed, just distorted enough that you'd never look too closely. Because if you did, you might start asking dangerous questions, and the answers were never meant to be found. The conquerors didn't just take land, they took memory. They didn't just burn scrolls, they rewrote timelines. They didn't just build new gods, they buried the old ones beneath guilt, shame, and the threat of eternal punishment. They took the eye and called it evil. They took the sun and called it primitive. They took the temples and filled them with silence. And all the while, they sold you a version of divinity that lived outside of you. One that demanded obedience. One that made you small, powerless, dependent. They taught you to worship separation, to fear judgment, to beg for forgiveness from something you were never separate from in the first place. The system isn't broken. It's perfectly built to keep you disconnected from your past, from your truth, from the living light that moves through your very being. And the erasure wasn't just cultural, it was spiritual. Because those who knew how consciousness works understood this. Control the story and you control the soul. And so they took the most advanced spiritual teachings the world has ever seen and turned them into dusty myths. They made temples into ruins and then told you the people who built them were less than human. They sold you the lie that the ancients believed in magic while hiding the fact that their science of spirit was far beyond what we still understand today. They didn't just suppress history, they suppressed frequency. Because Ra isn't just a story, it's a vibration, a signature, a resonance that activates something inside you the moment you hear it in truth. And the last thing the system wants is for that memory to return. Because memory is power. When you remember who you are, you stop being programmable. You stop being obedient. You stop searching for light outside of yourself and start radiating from within. And so they built distractions. They filled your life with noise, with content, with opinion, with synthetic stimulation, anything to keep you from stillness. Because in the stillness, the memory stirs, and in the silence, Ra speaks. But here's the twist they didn't account for. You can't kill the truth. You can only bury it. You can only delay its return. And when the timing is right, when the veil begins to lift, it resurfaces. Not in temples, but in people. In souls who start to ask different questions. In hearts that begin to vibrate differently. In seekers who stop chasing and start listening. That's what's happening now. That's why you're here. This isn't just a curiosity. It's a call. And it's not just about remembering Ra. It's about remembering why they wanted you to forget. Because once you understand that, you'll never see the world the same again. You'll see the control. You'll see the distortion. But most importantly, you'll see the light they tried so hard to hide. Not above you, not in books, but in you. Flickering, calling, unfolding. And the question is no longer, was Ra real? The question is, are you ready to remember what they tried to make you forget? There comes a moment when memory stops being a thought and starts becoming a frequency. When what once felt like curiosity becomes a knowing. And that knowing doesn't come from books or teachers or doctrine. It rises from somewhere deeper, somewhere timeless. That's not a coincidence. That's awakening. And the story of Ra wasn't just written in stone or sung in temples. It was written in you, in your very consciousness. The ancients knew that this moment would come, an age where truth would be forgotten but not lost, where light would be hidden but not extinguished. And when that age began to end, the sleepers would start to stir, some slowly, some all at once, but all of them would carry the same silent memory. I've been here before. I've known this before. You're not here because of a video. You're here because a part of you has been reaching toward this for longer than you've had a name for it. You felt the pull in moments you couldn't explain. In a sunrise that felt like a message. In dreams that felt like instructions. In the silence between thoughts where something ancient speaks without words. That's not imagination, that's alignment. That's you reconnecting with the current of Ra. Not as an external god, but as the essence of your awareness, the eternal part of you that has been cycling through lifetimes, forgetting and remembering again and again. The ancient Egyptians understood the soul not as a single thing, but as a composition of parts. One of those parts, the Ba, represented the personality, the ever-changing aspect of you that walks through the world. But the Ka, the vital essence, the divine spark that never changes. That's the part that comes from Ra. That is Ra. And when you awaken, it's not the Ba waking up. It's the Ka remembering itself. You were never meant to follow Ra. You were meant to become an extension of that same light. And the moment you stop seeking divinity outside of yourself and begin cultivating it within, something radical happens. You stop being a seeker and start being a transmitter. You begin to radiate presence. You begin to carry clarity into confusion, coherence into chaos. Not because you're perfect, but because you've remembered the source within. You cannot be broken, only hidden. And that's what this age is about. Not religion, not belief, remembrance. You don't need to convert. You don't need to be initiated by anyone but yourself. You only need to quiet the noise long enough to feel the signal again. The one that's been calling you from the beginning. Because the light of Ra doesn't demand loyalty. It doesn't punish. It doesn't divide. It simply shines, always. And the moment you align with it, truly, humbly, fearlessly, it changes everything. You begin to live differently. You begin to see differently. You start recognizing patterns, illusions, energies. You notice how the world is built to keep you asleep, distracted, fragmented, and more importantly, you see how many are still under the spell, not because they're weak, but because they forgot, just like you once did. And your awakening isn't just for you, it's for them too. Your remembrance becomes a beacon, a quiet invitation for others to remember who they are. You didn't come here to obey. You came here to illuminate, to carry light, not just in your hands, but in your being. And it doesn't matter how far you've drifted, how long you've been lost, the light is still there. The current of Ra is still flowing, and the moment you choose to remember, it begins moving through you again. You were told to look up, to worship the sky, to search the heavens for a God that would one day descend and save you. But the ancients never looked up to escape. They looked up to remember, because they understood something that's been buried for centuries. Ra was never above you. Ra was in you. In every cell, in every breath, in every quiet instinct you've ever had to trust the light, even when the world felt dark. The sun was never a symbol of something far away. It was a mirror reflecting the light you were always meant to carry. This isn't about belief. It's about resonance. You don't need to believe in Ra to be an expression of his light, just like a flame doesn't need to believe in fire to burn. It's your nature. And your entire life, the world has been trying to make you forget that. They taught you to doubt your inner knowing, to fear your own power, to outsource your truth to authority. They fed you stories of separation. They convinced you that light lived in temples, in systems, in someone else's hands. But light has never asked for permission to shine. It simply does. And the moment you stop looking outward and turn inward, you begin to feel it again. That quiet warmth, that ancient hum, the return of something you thought was lost. This is the end of the forgetting, not because the world has changed, but because you have. You're starting to see that everything you need is already here. The codes, the memory, the knowing. You don't need to seek it. You need to clear space for it. Cut through the noise, the conditioning, the program that told you to fit in, to stay small, to follow rules written by people who forgot themselves. The world won't understand you at first. It will tell you you're strange, idealistic, deluded. But that's only because it's afraid. Afraid of what happens when even one person stops living in fear and starts living in light. Because awakening is contagious. When you embody remembrance, it spreads. Not through preaching, through presence, through how you walk, how you speak, how you hold space for others to remember too. That's the path of Ra. Not to dominate, but to illuminate. Not to be followed, but to be lived. That's why he rises every day without fail. Because light doesn't need applause. It just returns. And now it's your turn to rise. To walk not in perfection, but in presence. To carry the memory of Ra not as a story, but as a living frequency. To let your life become the temple. Your actions, the offering. Your truth, the ritual. Not because you were told to, but because something deep inside you knows it's time. You are not lost. You are reactivating. You are not broken. You are remembering. The systems may have tried to bury this light, but they didn't create it, so they can never destroy it. You are proof of that. And no matter how many lifetimes it took to find your way back, you're here now, and Ra is rising in you. If this message has stirred something in you, don't leave it here. Carry it, guard it, live it. Let your awakening speak to the world without saying a word, because this isn't just about remembering Ra. It's about becoming the light they hoped you'd never find again. And if you've made it this far, you already know this truth isn't meant to stay hidden. Join our free newsletter, Insights Academy, to go deeper than YouTube will ever allow. And get your copy of the Kybalion as a guide on your path. The deeper truths are waiting. If this video resonated with you, let us know by commenting. I understood it.